On the third day of my husband's amnesia, I asked for a divorce. Without much thought, he agreed because he forgot about me but remembered his recent ex-wife. I suggested the divorce to make things easier for them. A month later, holding on to his medical records, he found me. "We have a child." I nodded, confirming that we do have a child. He asked about the child, but I chuckled and explained that I didn't want him anymore. So I took care of it at the Civil Affairs office that afternoon. My husband had a car accident on the way to celebrate his divorce with his ex. He had minor injuries, except for a head injury. When he woke up, I realized he had amnesia and didn't remember me. His ex was crying beside him, and he was consoling her. I was on the side skimming off the oil from the chicken soup, hoping it wouldn't be too greasy for him to drink later. After all the visitors left, 2 days had passed. I watched him holding his head, and gently suggested that the doctor said he might have dizziness and nausea constantly in the next few days. I asked if he wanted to lie down and rest for a while. Tom looked at me after opening his eyes, but remained silent for a while. Unexpectedly, he suddenly asked, "Did I marry you because I loved you? Why did I only forget about you?" I was surprised for a moment by his question. I explained that we were classmates, and after graduating from college, his family rushed us to marry, and I happened to like him. So we got married. He was taken aback. "You liked me?" I walked over to him, straightened his loose collar and said, "Yes, I liked you a lot back then. You were handsome, smart, and talented. Who wouldn't like you?" Seeing the confusion in his eyes, I smiled and urged him to lie down to feel better. Watching him walk back to the room, I finally made up my mind. I didn't want this man anymore, even if I had once liked him. I closed the bedroom door and went to the study. Tom had a whole shelf of books. Each time he wanted to read a book, he would find it in advance and put it in the right middle cabinet. I took out a thick notebook and flipped through it. Entries from 2014, when we had a freshman welcome party, and I noted how handsome the senior playing the violin, named Tom, was. I had feelings for him. All my feelings for him were recorded, including the time I slipped an ultrasound scan between the pages when we had a child in 2023. However, the entries turned bitter when I discovered he went on a trip with Jessie, and she called me, demanding me to return Tom to her because she wanted to divorce. As I left the house, I vowed to stay away from all the toxic people in my life, including Tom and his parents. March 1st, 2023, I served breakfast, and as Tom came out, his phone rang. Seeing Jess's name, he exchanged smiles and made plans. After breakfast, I decided to leave the house and headed to the lawyer's office, asking for a divorce due to Tom's infidelity with Jessie. Lisa, the lawyer, was shocked by the news as she knew us as the perfect couple. But I revealed the infidelity and his parents' approval of their relationship. They always thought Jessie was better than me. This time, the old couple must be overjoyed. Lisa snatched the coffee from my hand. "Aren't you pregnant? Is it okay to drink coffee?" I tilted my head. "Who said I was keeping it? I haven't planned to have this child since they went on a trip together. Tom is dirty. I don't want anything of mine to be associated with him, not even a child with his blood." I snatched the coffee back and took another sip. "I just don't have time now. Can you help me draft a divorce agreement as soon as possible? I want to maximize my interests while I can, preferably ensuring he leaves with nothing. If you've made up your mind, I won't stop you. Trash men are not worth saving. I will handle it for you now. Come with me," said Lisa. The whole day was spent at the law firm with Lisa and 2 other lawyers drafting the divorce agreement. At 9 o'clock that evening, I returned home with the divorce agreement. Upon entering, I saw leftovers on the table. Tom and Jessie both looked at me. "You didn't come back for dinner. Why didn't you call?" Tom questioned me. "Obviously, I was busy and forgot," I replied. I took out my phone and checked. "You didn't call me either." Jessie smoothed things over with a smile. "Oh well, there's nothing we can't discuss as a couple. You two talk, I'll leave first. Tom, your cooking is delicious. You can cook." I walked to the dining table, looking at the messy, but decent spread on it. Tom nodded. "I've always been able to cook, right? Haven't I cooked for you before? I really enjoy cooking. I used to cook for Jessie quite often." I chuckled, realizing that all those years of him not cooking were just an act. "All right. I know you don't love me anymore. You love your Jessie." I sat on the couch and pushed the divorce agreement toward him. "Take a look. If everything's okay, just sign it. I'll grant you your love. We've been together for a few years, and I've been a housewife, never worked outside, so I haven't saved much. Look, if you can leave with nothing, make space for your Jessie. With Jessie's rich family, they shouldn't care about our small property, right?" Tom didn't hesitate much. After reading it, he immediately signed. "Sorry, but since I can't remember you, and we can't live together anymore, I agree to all your conditions. I took the agreement with a smile. We'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. This house is in your parents' name. I won't stay here tonight. I have something tomorrow afternoon. Let's meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow morning. I waved my hand, leaving the house I had lived in for years. I won't take anything, nothing important. You can throw it away if you want. It wasn't until I got into the taxi that I laughed. Everything went too smoothly. In fact, over these years, I've had a side business with investments. I was waiting to buy the big flat Tom liked before telling him, but I didn't expect our money wasn't enough before the divorce. I wonder if Tom will still be as relaxed when he finds out Jess's family went bankrupt long ago, and she has no job abroad, even without her degree certificate, and only staying abroad relying on her foreign husband. Will that shake his trust? After all, they see Jessie as such an outstanding person. In reality, she's worthless. I understand why Jessie was so anxious, needing to find a sugar daddy back in China, and Tom was the perfect match. That's why she was so eager for our divorce. Trash belongs in the trash can, and Tom, this piece of garbage, was picked up by Jessie, which is great. The next morning, I arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau early. I thought I was in a hurry, but someone was even more urgent. Tom stood at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Jessie beside him, holding his arm. When Tom saw me, he pulled his arm away from Jessie's side. I pushed up my sunglasses. One would think you two are here to get married too. Mind your manners, not being ethical. Jessie got agitated. What are you talking about? You're so mean, like a shrew. I shrugged nonchalantly. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding, isn't that nice? Tom frowned, probably shocked by my snarky remarks. The procedures went quickly, and the staff kept sneaking glances at Tom and Jessie. I proceeded calmly while they seemed uncomfortable. You can't rush marriage. Wait for the 30-day cooling-off period. After that, come and pick up the divorce certificate. Then you're free to remarry, the staff said, embarrassing Tom. Jessie glared and pulled Tom away. I couldn't help but laugh. How did you know they were a couple? My brother was their classmate. The story of the woman abandoning the man and marrying someone else spread like wildfire. My brother used to tell me this story every day, and I even saw their photos. Who would have thought they would get married and rush to act as sycophants? Sis, the divorce was a good call. Thanks. I appreciate her helping to make things difficult for those two. Leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, I checked the time, made it in time, quickly hailed a taxi, and headed to the hospital. After terminating the pregnancy, I rested in the rented house for half a month. I rented this house after learning about Jess's divorce plans. I had planned to wait for Tom and Jessie to celebrate their divorce and then tell him about our divorce. I mentally rehearsed countless times how to handle Tom to maximize my benefits. Unexpectedly, the so-called amnesia accelerated everything. During my recovery, a friend came to take care of me. She was a writer and came over with her laptop. I really want to turn your story into a novel. I feel so inspired. Go ahead. What's wrong with earning some money after the divorce? Mary smirked deviously. I've written about it, and it's elevated to an artistic level. But are you really okay with divorcing like this? Don't most people want to seek revenge? I shook my head and replied, he left everything behind. There's no need to make it ugly. Seeing her disappointed expression, I smiled at her. I lied. I never claimed to be a good person. How could I just let Tom get away with what he did? But I couldn't tell anyone about my plan. I had too many things hidden in that house, waiting for Tom to discover them on his own. Every few days, he would have a new surprise. How satisfying. He's always wanting more, never satisfied with what he has. Now, Jessie became his focus, and I became the past. With my arrangements, I could make Tom a little uncomfortable from time to time. I never hoped for a scumbag to have a change of heart. It's just not realistic. It's better to make him feel a bit uneasy every now and then. After the cooling off period, I finally got the divorce certificate. Watching Jess's happy face, I smiled back at her. Tom looked at me with confusion and suddenly asked, did I only marry you because my family pressured me? Not because I liked you. Well, how would I know if you liked me? But hearing him say that, did he really lose his memory? But it doesn't matter now. When he left me at home to go see Jessie, whether he liked me or not was already irrelevant to me. I didn't respond and turned to walk away. Tom quickly grabbed my arm and said, I just remembered something. I pulled my arm away and said, ex-husband, we have no relationship. Whether you remember or not, it's no longer my concern. But you love her, so I wish you both all the best. I framed the divorce certificate and hung it on the wall. Mary applauded from the side. That's art. In the following days, I kept reading travel guides. These past few years, I had been a dedicated homemaker to take care of Tom, and never had a chance to enjoy myself. I was ready to travel. With the money in hand and no longer interested in the condo I previously eyed, I found a 2-bedroom apartment, paid for it in full, and decided to leave the city. I was selling it cheap, so I could afford to buy the apartment and go travel. On the day I signed the contract and got the keys to the apartment, I unexpectedly received a call from Tom's mother. She asked me to buy some crabs and oysters for dinner over the weekend. It seemed Tom hadn't told his family about our divorce. I looked out the window and said, "Auntie, didn't Tom tell you about our divorce? From now on, I won't be serving you. Let your new daughter-in-law take care of you." Tom's mother suddenly screamed, "What divorce?" Tom didn't say anything. "What do you mean by the new daughter-in-law? Everything was fine between you two. How can you be divorced?" I laughed. "Well, Tom had an affair with Jessie." "Oh, you don't know. Jessie is back, divorced from her foreign husband, looking to marry Tom, telling me to return him to her." "Jessie, isn't she married?" "Yeah, she's getting divorced from her foreign husband and wants to marry Tom. She's successful and making money. She'll be the daughter-in-law you're proud of." Tom's mom broke down. "But she's a loose woman. What's the use of being successful? She's already been married before." I couldn't help but laugh. "Well, then Tom and she are a match made in heaven. 2 loose shoes make a pair. From now on, I have no relationship with your family. Don't contact me unless necessary. If you need anything, ask Tom to get you a trunk full of crabs." I hung up the phone, feeling relieved. In the past, they would call me to cook whatever they wanted, and during dinner, they'd praise Jessie for her successes, and how they would elevate their status if she became their daughter-in-law. But now, I was done being mistreated. Tom's mother called again a week later. I had a feeling of what it was about. I answered, and she asked hesitantly if I was expecting a child with Tom. After a moment of silence, I replied, "Yes, but the child was gone. We took care of that on the day we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce." "How could you do that? Does Tom know?" "Tom, do you know, on the day we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau, Jessie held his arm while we finalized our divorce." "What about the child? Should I have kept it?" "But you can't just take the child away. That's our child." "Tom, the child is gone." "What's the point of you saying that now?" "Yes, it's your bloodline. So what? Let Jessie have a chance to have a child." After hanging up the phone, I opened my contacts and removed the hospital's number from the blacklist. Surprisingly, Tom's mother found out about it before Tom did, and Tom's reading speed has slowed down recently. I wonder if his mother will tell him about it. "Tom, pay more attention and see that ultrasound earlier." I packed my bag and took the train for a trip. The scenery along the way was unfamiliar to me, and I had never seen such beautiful landscapes before. On the day I arrived in Xinjiang, I received a call from Tom. "Are you at home? I want to see you," Tom said. I was quite surprised. "Why? We have no relationship anymore." I remembered some things, and in those memories, I liked you, Tom said. I laughed. "Even if you liked me, you had someone you liked more." "What does your liking me mean? Using me as a housekeeper, as a servant's liking?" "No, it's not like that." "Then tell me, after being married for so many years and being such a good cook, why didn't you ever cook for me? Not even one meal. How come you couldn't remember our anniversary? Why didn't you take me out to celebrate? Instead, you could celebrate your white lady's divorce." "Tom, don't be ridiculous. I really hope you and Jessie get married now and stop meddling in other people's lives," Tom said. "Me and Jessie are not what you think." I finally couldn't hold it anymore and burst out, "Not what I think. Then what is it? Dare you say that in these years of our marriage, you didn't go abroad to see her, didn't send her birthday gifts every year, didn't lie to me about having a meeting, but instead went out to dinner and movies with her? Tom, did you think I was just ignorant?" I hung up the phone, feeling like smashing my phone. Bastard, they are both bastards. Both of them have no shame. I investigated them for a whole month. I trusted Tom too much before, and I never expected that he would lie to me so easily. Scrolling through Jess's updates, every time they coincided with her photos, I felt like tearing them apart. Now, how dare Tom contact me and say he liked me before? Is this how you treat someone you like? Tom's timing is quite precise. The day I returned from Xinjiang, I received another call from him. "Come out. I want to talk to you about something. Don't keep avoiding me." I thought for a moment and felt that it was the time he had found my diary and ultrasound reports. I was excited and headed out carrying my bag. When I arrived at the coffee shop, I immediately saw Tom sitting by the window. I sat across from him and casually ordered an iced coffee. Tom placed something in front of me. It turned out to be my medical records. I was a bit surprised. Surprised that he found my medical records instead of the ultrasound reports and diary, which he should have discovered later. Tom opened my medical records and asked, "We had a child. Is that so?" I didn't speak, but stared into his eyes, watching his eyes gradually turn red. After taking the iced coffee from the waiter, I took a sip. Then I said, "Yes, we had a child." I saw Tom choke up, Is the child really gone? I burst into laughter. Isn't it obvious? I'm even drinking iced coffee. How could I possibly have a child in my stomach? I shrugged. No. The afternoon we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau. I went to the hospital. The child was gone. Tom's eye sockets turned even redder. Are you being too heartless? I picked up the iced coffee and finished it in one gulp. What? Am I heartless? Why don't you consider yourself heartless? Let's not even talk about the fact that when you were sick, I didn't go abroad to celebrate birthdays with the white lady. I didn't go give birthday gifts to the white lady when you were in surgery, pretending to have a company meeting. I didn't lie to you about going on a business trip and celebrate the white lady's divorce. Am I heartless? No, right? Besides, I don't even want you, my ex-husband. Why should I bear a child for you? Are you dreaming? Tom lowered his head, seemingly shedding tears. I knew he had always wanted a child very much, and had been hoping that I would give him one. But we had been married for years without any progress. Mom called and told me that you were pregnant, but then you lost the baby. I felt like my whole world was crashing. I knew you would lock important documents in the drawer, so I found someone to unlock it. The moment I saw your medical records, I felt like the sky was falling. I didn't know you were pregnant. I really didn't know. If I had known, I wouldn't have gone. I wouldn't have gone to see her. I was a bit puzzled. How could he shed tears? It's really strange. He continued. I've been recovering some of my memories these days. After we got married, I did genuinely like you. But Jessie, I was just not at peace. I just wanted her to see that I was doing well. I wanted her to regret, that's all. And I never thought of getting a divorce from you. You clearly like me. How could you lie to me about divorce when I lost my memory? I was shocked. Lie. Regardless of whether you truly lost your memory, or pretended to, I don't care anymore about what happened before. I don't know what you're thinking, but from my perspective, even if you liked me, it wasn't that deep. You feel more of a sense of responsibility toward me. Your true affection is for Jessie. If you truly lost your memory this time, it's fine. What you think when you have amnesia is your true thoughts. Now you and Jessie are both single, and you can be together without regret. Dare she ask me to return you to her? Then I'll give you to her, not to return, but to let her recycle some garbage. So pointless. I don't feel like talking to him anymore. I'm busy, got things to do. I'm leaving. Jane, is there a chance for us to remarry? No. After leaving the coffee shop, I felt drained and disappointed today. I really wished he had seen the ultrasound of his biological child. But before Tom could reach out to me again, I received the news of Tom's marriage to Jessie. Things were quiet for a few days, until I suddenly got a call from Tom's cousin. She informed me that Tom had married Jessie to please his parents, and that they were pressuring him to have a child immediately to carry on the family line. Unable to withstand the pressure, my husband Tom went ahead and got married. Tom's parents couldn't sit still when they found out about the child we had lost. They didn't care much about the wife as long as their son was happy and could have children. Tom's cousin expressed her dislike for Jessie, calling her a homewrecker, and questioning why she hadn't found a job after returning to the country. It turned out Jessie even tried to get a job at Tom's company, which was a foreign enterprise, where language skills mattered, but her lack of a degree might have been an issue. Surprisingly, 4 days later, I heard that Jessie had been hired. However, Tom's mother was not happy, because Jessie had misled them about her salary, claiming to earn $1 million annually abroad, but only receiving $8,000 as a monthly pay at Tom's company. Tom's cousin kept me updated, seemingly waiting for a laughing matter. Tom really disgusted me. Just a few days ago, he said there was nothing between them, but now they were married, and he even helped her find a job. He had once told me I couldn't work at his company, because I wasn't qualified, but I made sure Jessie didn't have a smooth ride, as she had destroyed my marriage. I gathered evidence of her fake qualifications, and sent it to Tom's rival at work. I waited for a week, with no exciting news, thinking Tom's rival might not take any action. But 2 weeks later, I heard that Jessie had been fired. Tom's cousin reveled in the news, commenting on how Jessie's fake credentials had been exposed, thanks to the report made against her. Feeling relieved, I sipped my lemon water. Another week later, I discovered that Tom's rival had been promoted to vice president, leaving Tom in a tough spot at work. I felt content that justice was served, and now I had enough money and successful investments to become a freelance writer. I lived blissfully each day, almost forgetting about Tom. Then one day, Tom found my notebook. A neighbor informed me that Tom and Jessie were constantly fighting now that he had discovered something on my computer. I sighed, realizing they had mistaken a simple notebook for a computer. The neighbor expressed shock, thinking Tom had cheated on me with Jessie. Eventually, Tom came to see me, and we ended up having dinner at a dim sum buffet restaurant. I had a feeling of what Tom wanted to talk about, but I genuinely just wanted to enjoy the meal. Recently, Tom has been quite down, looking pale and with serious dark circles under his eyes. Haven't been sleeping well lately, I asked kindly as I popped a shrimp dumpling into my mouth. It's alright, I chewed. What's up? He stared as I shoved the dumpling into my mouth. Found my diary, he said as a matter of fact. Oh, that's where it went. Must have left it here, I replied, trying to act casual. Tom confessed amid tears that he had no idea about my feelings all these years, the struggles I endured, and the lies he told me to see Jessie. He apologized and asked for forgiveness. I handed him a tissue and slid his plate closer to me. Jane, I'm truly sorry. Can you forgive me? Can we be together again? Shaking my head, I told him it was too late, and that it was over between us. Despite his pleas and regrets, I knew there was no hope for us. Leaving the restaurant, I decided to let Tom cover the bill. I had another eatery to find. Back home, I shredded the diary, destroying nearly a decade of loving him, leaving him to find reminders of our past scattered around the house. Our wedding video, the promises he once made, the blessings I recorded secretly for him each year, were all gone. I wanted to make him remember our lost child and the happiness he threw away. Intentionally, I left baby socks, aprons, parenting books, and children's stories, setting the stage for bittersweet memories he would stumble upon, reminding him of what he lost. If he found out about Jess's infidelities abroad and her miscarriages, orchestrated by me, he might crumble. I was prepared for a long, silent war of vengeance. Having moved on, I now had the time and means to unveil Jess's deceit to her husband and parents-in-law. Every time, they'd remember me would bring their world crashing down. My heart had found peace after all these years. I had money, investments, and freedom. My parents, accepting my divorce, promised to be with me when they retire. I looked forward to that day. As for Tom and Jessie, I locked them away in my past. I received a call from a friend as I was late for dinner, eager to start my new life. Epilogue. A sudden accident changed everything, jeopardizing my quest for revenge against Jessie. Waking up in the hospital, Jessie grieving beside me, I saw a woman I didn't recognize standing solemnly by the window. Comforting Jessie, the woman approached my bed. I smiled and asked, "And who are you?" She hesitated, then answered with a smile, "I'm your wife." In that moment, I realized that I might have amnesia. I looked at her face for a long time, but couldn't recall a single impression. She brought a doctor and a nurse, and explained my situation in detail. The conclusion was that I might have forgotten some things due to being overly scared. I didn't really mind, because I hadn't forgotten the important stuff. Just felt like my memories were a bit fragmented, pieces that didn't quite fit together. Upon reflection, I might have lost memories of my so-called wife, causing my memories to be sporadic. After the doctor left, she answered a phone call and then told me, "Mom and Dad are on their way. I'll go get you guys some food." The doctor said that I had a head injury, which might make me feel dizzy or nauseous. When she left the hospital room, Jessie was still crying, so I had to shift my focus to comfort her. Within 5 minutes, my parents arrived. My mom walked around the room and immediately asked, "Where's your wife? Is this how she takes care of the patient? She's busy all day, who knows doing what? Look, when it comes to serious matters, she's nowhere to be found. I don't know why you brought her back, and if she had a fraction of what Jessie does." From my mom's tone, it seemed like she considered my wife very inadequate. Jessie held onto my mom's arm and told her about my amnesia, which left my mom pale with shock. After explaining a bit, my mom relaxed a little, relieved that I only forgot about my wife. So my mom eased up a bit. By the time my so-called wife came back carrying a bunch of takeout boxes, an hour had passed. "Jane, how could you be someone's wife if you're still in bed? Did you just leave him here? Went to get food on your own?" Jane placed the takeout boxes on a table and replied, "Mom, I left as soon as Tom woke up, and I asked the doctor. He's fine, and Jessie is taking care of him. It was almost noon, and I assumed you and Dad hadn't eaten, so I bought extra." Her tone was too calm, which made me uncomfortable. Watching her calmly skim off the oil from the chicken soup, I felt restless. I didn't know how to describe my current mental state, but she felt like a stranger to me. This stranger was my wife, and honestly, I couldn't accept it. I got discharged from the hospital that same afternoon and went home to rest. I informed my boss about the situation and took a long leave. After resting at home for a day, I felt slightly better mentally, but still experienced intermittent dizziness. For some reason, looking at the busy woman, I suddenly asked her, "Did I marry you because I love you?" Even though I couldn't remember, I felt like if I loved her, I wouldn't have just forgotten about her. Unexpectedly, she replied, "No, I liked you, but you married me because of pressure." My head started to ache more. On the morning of March 1st, when I came out, she had already prepared breakfast. I didn't know how to act around her, so I just sat down and started eating. After finishing breakfast, she said she had to go out. I told her that Jesse would come to take care of me, to which she replied with a smile. Her smile annoyed me. Indeed, there seemed to be no affection between us. Jesse took care of me all day, and when it was dinner time, my so-called wife wasn't home. So, I cooked dinner for Jesse. The smell of cooking oil made me dizzy, but I managed to make 4 dishes and a soup. She came back around 9 in the evening and was surprised that I could cook. See, there's really no affection between us. I've never cooked for her. Unexpectedly, she then brought up divorce. She said she wanted to set me free to be with Jesse. Jesse and I didn't have that kind of relationship, but I didn't bother explaining. Just picked up the divorce agreement to read. It only involved financial matters like savings and investments, no property. As far as I remembered, our house was in my mom's name. Money could be earned again, so I agreed to leave with just my personal belongings. It was like buying peace with money. I really didn't know how to interact with this stranger. She was quick to leave, taking nothing with her, and left me to deal with everything. The next morning, Jessie accompanied me to the Civil Affairs Bureau. When she showed up, I instinctively withdrew my arm from Jessie's side. The process was quick, and after it ended, I left with Jessie. It felt relieving. After the cooling off period, I received the divorce certificate. She seemed thinner, with a sharper chin. She looked so happy that snippets of memories flashed in my mind. Her eyes sparkled as she ate ice cream and looked at me, smiling beautifully. I started to doubt. Did I really not like her? So, I asked. She was silent for a moment, then called me ex-husband, insulted me a bit, and left. I felt uneasy. During this time, I started tidying up the house. It was filled with her traces, and slowly, I began to remember some things. Suddenly, I realized that I might have liked her. At that moment, I got a call from my mom, who was crying and told me that Jane was pregnant with my child. My heart skipped a beat, feeling inexplicably joyful. However, my mom's next words chilled me. She said Jane was heartless. She mentioned getting rid of the baby. I didn't know how to hang up the phone. Snippets of memories ran through my head. She hugged my arm and said with a smile, "Let me tell you, it seems like my family has a hereditary pattern of twins every other generation. It's my turn now. Maybe we'll have 2 identical little radishes in the future. Isn't that amazing? I cannot wait for it," I replied, feeling excited. We both laughed happily. My hands trembled as I dialed the company's number to find out more. I remembered where she kept her files in the drawer at the desk. I wanted to confirm if she was really pregnant. When I pulled out her medical records from the drawer and opened them, I felt dizzy. It seemed highly likely that I lost a pair of twins. My head throbbed, and memories flooded back to me. In those memories, I realized that I liked her. I wanted to see her, so I called her, only to be scolded. She knew everything. She knew about my lingering feelings for my ex, Jessie, even after getting married. She knew about the lies I told her and the visits to Jessie. I confessed that Jessie was my first love, and I couldn't forget her. But with her, it was just a feeling of unwillingness. I wasn't planning anything with Jessie. I tried to explain, saying, "It's not what you think with Jessie. I didn't cheat," but she replied, "Cheating emotionally is still cheating." 2 sets of green hats. How should we classify them? From that day on, memories rushed back to me. I remembered that I liked her and wanted to meet her. Unexpectedly, she agreed to see me. I took her medical records and confessed my feelings to her. She cut me off. I couldn't understand. If she loved me so much, why did she pretend to have a divorce when I lost my memory? I liked her, and I believed she could sense it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been together for so many years. She scolded me and left. I regretted not telling her before the accident how much I regretted and missed her. My mind was consumed with thoughts of her. Had I known about the accident, I would have never left her for Jessie. I kept repeating in my heart, "Wife, I'm sorry." Perhaps the overwhelming regret and despair in my mind triggered the memory loss, erasing her from my thoughts. After returning home, I wondered if there was a way to win Jane back. Jessie was indeed the one who got away, occupying a place in my heart, but I genuinely liked Jane. We had been together for so many years, and she took care of me and our home so well. She was good to my parents too, so I wanted to remarry her. But looking at the current situation, it seemed challenging. Recalling waking up in the hospital fueled my frustration. When I lost my memory, my mom misled me by never speaking well of Jane in front of me, planting the idea that she wasn't a good wife. Hence, I misconceived every encounter with Tom as vexing. I decided to confront my mom. Instead, she cried and forced me to marry Jessie, threatening to jump out of the window if we didn't get married. We were all terrified. She insisted on becoming a grandmother, stating that if Jane could conceive, then Jessie could too. According to my mom, Tom was insistent on divorce, leaving no possibility of reconciliation, which led to a rush to marry Jessie immediately so she could become a grandmother. It was only after Jessie and I obtained a marriage certificate that my mom came down from the window ledge. I somewhat resigned myself to the situation. Well, I was married to Jessie now, fulfilling my youthful dream of marrying her. However, things began to spiral out of control from the moment we got married. My mom started to pester Jessie, questioning why she wasn't working when she could earn more back in her home country. Both of us were tired from her constant nagging. Jessie was particularly upset, wondering why she had to work when I didn't. After some consideration, I thought, having someone like Jessie join the company could benefit both of us. She had the language advantage, and her presence could boost my chances in the competition for the vice president position. I recommended her internally in the company. Unexpectedly, when the company started an internal investigation, it was disclosed that Jessie's academic credentials were falsified. The situation left me feeling like everything was falling apart. As a result, Jessie was fired, I was demoted, and my competitor became the vice president. What I thought would be assistance turned into a bomb that destroyed all my future prospects. When I returned home that day, chaos ensued. My mom tearfully lashed out at Jessie, while my dad stayed silent in the background. Witnessing it all, I felt drained. My mom blamed Jessie for being a source of misfortune, claiming she brought bad luck to our family. Contrary, Jessie argued that if my mom hadn't pushed her into finding a job, she wouldn't have considered joining my company, shifting the blame back to my mom. Their argument escalated. Finally, in a moment of frustration, I smashed the coffee table, causing them to stop. They had probably never seen me so irate before, and they both trembled in fear. At that moment, I reached the pinnacle of regret. Why did I let myself be influenced by my mom and push away such a good wife, only to end up with someone like Jessie? Was this some form of punishment? A week later, I received the notice of my pay cut, while my competitor received the promotion. Upon returning home, I felt the dark clouds of life hovering over me. The years I spent with Jane were filled with happiness and ease. She never argued with my mom, always trying to accommodate her. Unlike Jessie, the mere sight of my mom set her off into a rage. I looked at her shrewish appearance, felt disgusted, and didn't even have the desire to touch her. To avoid her, I went to the study to tidy up the bookshelf. There, I found a diary. As I opened it, I had no idea what kind of storm it would unleash. The diary was about me. It recorded Jane's love for me for nearly a decade and her ultimate despair. Trembling, I looked at the chat records pasted in the diary. The hurtful words Jessie sent me made me break out in a cold sweat. Finally, I understood why Jane knew everything. Why she didn't believe there was nothing between Jessie and me. Because every lie of mine was like a knife in Jane's heart, as Jessie divulged them all. At that moment, I wished I could kill Jessie. If she hadn't sent those things to Jane, Jane wouldn't have known about my lies. She wouldn't have lost our child, and we could have continued to live happily. So, everything was Jessie's fault. When I saw the ultrasound report, my breath caught. The case was not straightforward, but the report vividly showed me the tiny embryo, my child. And the words fetal heartbeat made me feel like my heart had been stabbed with a sword. The small embryo already had a heartbeat. It should have survived and thrived. It was all because of Jessie. It was because of her that I lost my child. Shaking, I tried to put the ultrasound report back in the notebook, but I found some words written on the back. HCG 39,000. What did this mean? I took out my phone and checked. A high HCG level indicates a high possibility of twins, but it's not certain. My phone slipped from my hand, and I felt dizzy. I remembered what Jane had said about genetic inheritance and twins. Then, I don't know how I left the study and ended up in a fight with Jessie. By the time I realized it, the vase was shattered on the floor. I cursed her, and she sat there cursing me back hysterically. Seeing her like that, I truly regretted it. It was my fault for giving her the opportunity to destroy my family. A day later, I called Jane out. I didn't expect her to answer my call, or even come out. Yes, that's how gentle she is. Jessie couldn't hold a candle to her. I couldn't help it. I cried. I told her I saw the diary, begged for her forgiveness, and hoped to remarry her. She refused outright, walked away, wishing me well before leaving. Despite how I treated her, she wished me well. She was truly gentle and kind. Back home, Jessie rushed to ask if I had seen Jane. Seeing her shrewish appearance irritated me, and I slapped her. She was stunned at first, then lunged to hit me back. She threw everything she could around the house. The neighbors were scared and called the police. Jessie screamed, telling the police I wanted to kill her. My parents rushed to the police station upon hearing about the incident. After reviewing the surveillance footage in our living room, the police realized it was just a domestic dispute. I slapped her, and she scratched my face. After a reprimand, we were sent home. Looking at the mess in the room, I felt exasperated. Jessie shouted that I was no good, but I ignored her. My mom whispered to me that she heard Jessie's family had gone bankrupt long ago, and she had to return home because of a divorce abroad, with no option but to come back. It seemed she had a history of reckless behavior abroad, leading to multiple miscarriages from being beaten by her ex-husband. She urged me to divorce Jessie, saying her belly might not be able to bear children anymore. I chuckled. What? Are you dissatisfied with every daughter-in-law? Even if Jane is so great, you're still dissatisfied. Now, this daughter-in-law, you forced her way in this marriage. Isn't this what you wanted? You thought she'd be as easygoing as Jane. Haven't you seen her true colors? This is our family's retribution. I felt more exhausted in these few months than in over 30 years of my past. I was just too tired. Lately, I could sense that my boss didn't approve of me anymore. I lost his trust. He had doubts about me, and he wouldn't rely on me anymore. Physically and mentally weary, I talked to Jessie about divorcing her. She said, "No way. You want a divorce? You won't even get out the door." She insisted she would never leave me, just wear me out. My mom tried to hit her, but I stopped her. Things were already chaotic. Later on, I spent my days figuring out how to deal with Jessie, and like a psycho, sneakily checked Jane's updates. She posted a photo of a trash can full of shredded paper. At a glance, I knew it was that notebook. I understood. She had let go. She seemed to have let go of me and her feelings for me. Jane is really kind. Despite my actions, she hasn't blocked me, and I can still see her updates. She's living happily. She seems to have started writing a book and achieved some success. Her life seems to be getting better and better. As for my life, it's getting worse and worse. Jessie often disappears, leaving the house messy. My mom has to come over to help, yelling at Jessie hoarsely for an hour each time. What a charade. She pretended so well before. Now that we're married, her true self has surfaced. No wonder her ex-husband didn't want her. What a piece of work. If she had a tenth of Jane's qualities, I'd be grateful. I sat there listening and laughing. I had heard this story several times during my memory loss period. Just that this time, the roles of main and supporting characters were switched. Days passed in torment, and as I was cleaning the bookcase again, I found a children's book. I knew it must be for Jane's baby when it's born. I glanced at it and put it back on the shelf. A few days later, while tidying the closet, I stumbled upon a small basket filled with cute children's socks, cartoon ones, with adorable designs like little frogs and pandas, each with 2 pairs. They would have looked so cute on a child if one had been born. Later on, I found many more things, and each time I saw them, my heart ached terribly. I was supposed to have twins, a loving wife, and a pair of lovely children, all ruined because of Jessie. 6 months later, the company laid me off due to restructuring, giving me a sizable severance package. Back home, I decided to organize my computer files and came across a folder on the D drive for the future baby. I opened it and found several videos recorded by Jane. "Dear sweet baby, Mom just got back from the hospital. You're finally here. Dad and I have been eagerly waiting for you. Maybe you are twins. Thank you for coming. Let's surprise Dad soon." In the subsequent videos, she went from excited to nonchalant. "Baby, your dad is so busy. I still haven't found the chance to tell him in person, but that's okay. The longer we wait, the more joy we'll have. Keep cheering for Mom." Looking at the dates, it seemed to be the day she mentioned in her diary about taking the anti-miscarriage pills. I clenched my fist and slammed it on the desk. She knew I had gone to see Jessie, and yet defended me in front of the child. How much of a mess was I before? After 2 days of inner turmoil, I contacted her and arranged to meet. I really missed her. She said, "Oh, I'm not feeling well in the early stages of pregnancy. Always nauseous. My husband doesn't want me to go out. He told me to stay home and rest. Do you need any urgent help? If so, I can ask my husband to assist you." I quickly said, No, everything's fine," and hastily hung up. She had remarried already, and I wondered why there was no mention of a wedding on her social media. I called my cousin, as I recalled their close relationship. I know about her getting married. I even attended the wedding. "At that time, you and Jessie were fighting every day because of the divorce. She asked me not to post about it or tell you," she said. "So, I didn't say anything. 4 months ago, I felt a chill down my spine. Only now, I was certain that it was irreparable. She and I were over. 6 months later, Jane's children were born, and she posted an update. Children born, life is complete, she wrote. The photo only showed 2 children with their faces covered. She had given birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. I stared at the photo for a long time. My mom called, saying she had seen Jane's update, and spent an hour cursing Jessie, lamenting that she was supposed to have twin grandchildren, but that auspicious opportunity was ruined by Jessie, the jinx. If only those events hadn't occurred, now it would have been me proudly having a pair of twins for a lifetime. That day, I drank heavily, took out my long unused violin, and played a tune from our freshman welcoming party. I opened a chat box and sent her $1,000, with just a message saying congratulations. She accepted the red envelope and said, "Thank you." I cheated, both emotionally and physically this time. I just couldn't bear to touch Jessie. Moreover, it wasn't entirely my fault that she could hardly conceive. I made a strenuous effort to find someone similar to Jane, and I did. She was innocent, kind, and beautiful. Jessie found out about this and confronted me, questioning in what way she fell short compared to that woman. That's who I am, a person without self-control. Otherwise, how could you have taken me away from Jane? If you could snatch me from Jane, then someone else could snatch me from you too. I didn't want to argue with her, so I slammed the door and went to my girlfriend's place. She didn't want a divorce, so I'll force her. I'm good at giving her the silent treatment. If that doesn't work, I'll just file for divorce, a simple matter. Jane's plan: buy cute socks, dolls, and fairy tale books and scatter them around the house. Print and paste screenshots of Jess's and my conversations in her diary. Since I haven't written in my diary for a long time, I need to catch up on entries from 2021 to 2023, using pens of different colors. Diary entries must express sorrow, anticipation for the upcoming child, disappointment in the current marriage, and despair. Must expose Jess's misdeeds. Write about the times she made me unstable during pregnancy. What do pregnant women even eat to stabilize themselves? Well, let's just write about the stabilizing pills. I remember they were always bitter in TV dramas. Keep the medical records and ultrasound reports prominently placed. After the ultrasound reports, write down the HCG levels a bit higher, since I recall a friend saying she had high HCG levels and gave birth to twins. Can't be bothered to check, so let's just write a higher number. Portray myself as gentle, kind, and wronged, and strive for maximum benefits during the divorce. I want to be on the moral high ground to point fingers at them. Don't block Tom and his parents. Keep social media posts open, but just block him from seeing things not related to him. Aim to post something related to him each month. I had a pair of twins. I'm so amazing. Of course, my husband is amazing too. Heard Tom has cheated again, so they can have their drama, and I can finally relax.